So here is our expression of the day. And the expression of the day is time flies when you are having fun. Now, maybe you have a similar expression in your language, but here in English, we use this expression when we're having fun, we don't pay attention to the time. So in some cases, when we're doing something fun, time seems to go faster. Now, I think it's interesting to think about when we're doing fun activities, then time goes faster. But if you look at the picture on the right side of the screen, I thought this was funny. Time flies when you're having fun, so stay bored and live forever. So there you go, guys. So if you want to live forever, don't do fun things. Then you can just be bored all the time. But of course, that wouldn't be life, right? So in this case, thinking about things we do to have fun. So I was thinking video games and other activities. So guys, here's our chat question of the day. So I know the corona situation is probably a lot of boring time for you. So I was curious, is there a fun activity that you like to do that has made time go faster for you during this quarantine time? Now, guys, you can't say TV or movies. Let's try to be creative here. So are there some activities that you guys like to do that help make the time go faster? Well, guys, let's come back to our expression. So once again, the expression we're learning today is time flies when you're having fun. So I hope for you guys during this quarantine time, you are doing some things to help you pass the time. So make the time fly when you're having fun. Okay, so guys, what we're going to do here is in just a moment, we're going to leave the presentation and we're going to jump into Burlington English to kind of review some of the lessons that hopefully you had the chance to do last week. So, and then this also is going to help prepare us for what we're going to do next week, because next week I have something special that I would like for us to do. So I'm going to change screens here. So I'm going to turn this off, turn this presentation off, and I'm going to jump into Burlington English, okay? So last week I asked students to do two activities. So the first activity was talking about getting a physical. So we're going to review some of that information here and again explain how we're going to use this information for our next lesson or what we're going to do next week. So once again, we mentioned that getting a physical is when we go to the doctor, right? Usually once a year. So now, of course, during the quarantine situation, it's probably been difficult for us to do. But in this case, I thought it's a good opportunity to think about our health. You know, this is a time when health is important. So hopefully you had a chance to do the activity, but we're going to review a few things here while we're together this morning, okay? So once again, in the activity, the situation that you see on the screen, let's take a look at it. So as you can see, it's a conversation. So I'm going to bring the conversation up on the screen, and I would like a couple of students to help me read the conversation. So I'm going to kind of make it a little bit bigger. Hopefully you can see it there on the screen. Okay, so let's see. How about in this situation, Okaina, how about you be Diego? And Rena, how about you be Anna in this conversation? Can you see it there on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so Okaina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so if you could be Diego and Rena, you be Anna.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Anna. What are you doing here?
I have a sore throat. What about you?
Yeah. I'm not sick. I'm here for my physical.
What's that?
It's a checkup that the doctor checks to see if you are healthy. You don't have to wait until you are sick. You gotta go to the doctor.
Okay. Yeah, so again, that word checkup. Many of you probably heard that particular word before, right? When we go to the doctor for a checkup, right? So thank you for reading that, guys. Okay, now let's look at our two questions that we see over here. All right, so for example, based on the conversation, let's think about question number one. Question number one says, why do people go to a doctor? What are some reasons why people go to a doctor? I think we know, but how could we say it?
Sometimes they go to the doctor because they feel sick.
Okay, so when we're sick.
Something weird on his body. And another time, person just going to the doctor to sick if everything is okay.
Okay, so like we said, the word checkup. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's see if
Yes.
we're correct with our first answer. Yeah, so they're sick, or in this case, they use the word physical. Okay, and as we learned here for the word physical, that's our next one, right? So what is a physical? Well, as you said, a checkup of some kind, right?
Mhm.
So let's see if we're correct. So I'm just going to type in checkup, and let's show all the answers. There we go. So it's a checkup to see how we're doing. Now, of course, we think about different countries, perhaps in terms of medical care. Some countries, of course, medical care might be free. Here in the United States, of course, it's not free. It is expensive. But I know that a physical or a checkup is something pretty important, right? Something we should probably do every year. All right, now let's go on to our next screen. Now, if you remember, if you had a chance to do the activity last week, there were a lot of new words that we learned. And what I'd like to do is let's look at the right side of the screen, and I'm going to ask a couple of students to read these sentences. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little better. Okay. All right, so hopefully we can see questions. Can we see sentences 1 and 2 there? So for example, Paula, would you read number 1 for us? And then Maria, read number 2 for us.
The nurse weighs you to find out how many pounds you are.
Okay.
The nurse measures you to find out how tall are you.
Okay.
You are.
You are, good. Okay, so I see the key words there, weighs and measures. So for number 1, the nurse weighs us. Now, if I look at the pictures over on the right side, so I'll zoom in for just a moment, which picture looks like they're weighing somebody? So if you notice, we have A, B,
B.
C, and
B.
D. So what do you think, B?
B.
Yes.
Okay,
B.
so it looks like B might be the answer for this one. All right. And then which one is measuring to find out how tall we are?
D.
Okay, it looks like D maybe, right? Okay. All right, so far it looks like we're off to a good start. Now let's see if we're correct with the first answer. Okay, so we are correct. Now don't worry, guys, I'm not going to ask you how much you weigh, but you know, here in the United States, of course, we don't use grams or kilograms. We use pounds, right? So in this case, yeah, pounds are how we use it here in the United States. When it comes to measurement for how tall we are, what do we use for those things? What measurements do we use to measure how tall you are?
Centimeters.
Say it again, Maria.
Centimeters.
Centimeters?
Yeah.
Meters? Okay. Yeah, now maybe in Brazil,
Yeah.
but not in the United States.
It's inch.
Feet.
Feet
Feet
No, it's feet.
and
and inches.
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 Yes. Okay. Now, guys, we may not want to talk about how much we weigh, but I'm curious. Do you know how tall you are in feet and
Yeah.
inches? Okay. So how tall are
I
you?
know. I'm 5.1.
So 5'1". We would say 5'1".
Yeah.
Okay. So you're 5'1". All right. Who else knows how tall they are?
I'm 5'9".
5'9". That's pretty tall.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who's taller? Anybody taller than 5'9"? Nobody? Sergey, do you know how tall you are?
About 6 feet.
6 feet. Yeah, I think you and I are about the same. I think we're both about 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What about anybody else? Shiho,
Oh.
Wasami, Daniela, do you know?
Away?
No. Just height. We're not talking about weight today. I don't want to share that answer either. Shiho, what about you? How tall are you? Do you know?
I'm 5'4".
5'4". Okay, Daniela.
I don't know how it's in feet, but I'm just 1 meter with 57 centimeters.
So 1 meter 57 centimeters. Okay, who can tell us? Who thinks they know 1 meter 57 centimeters?
Like 5.2 or 5.3.
So maybe 5'3", 5'2". Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because
Oh.
she's taller than I.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to use pictures to see. We'll have to take a picture here and a picture here and put them together, okay?
Because in meters I have 1.15 55.
Okay, so slightly taller. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now Rena has to tell us. Okay, Rena, do you know how tall you are?
I think I'm 5 feet.
5 feet exactly?
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, I have bad news for you. I don't think we're going to be a very good basketball team. So I think in this case, I think we're all probably a little too short, maybe, to be basketball players. Okay, so yes, we use pounds for weight. We use feet and inches for measurements. Okay. All right, let's continue with this activity. So we've done, we saw the next answer, right? So the answer was D. Okay. All right, let's move on and let me clear the screen there. Okay. So let's see. Shiho, would you read number 3? Daniela, you read number 4. And let's see. Sergey, you read number 5.
Okay. The nurse checks your blood pressure.
Okay. Okay, so Daniela can read the next one.
Yeah, the doctor listens to your breathing.
Okay, so breathing. Okay. All right. And Sergey, what about the last one?
Times. The doctor prescribes medication.
Okay. So for blood pressure, which one would be number 3? Which letter?
A.
Okay, so
A.
I hear A for our answer. So let's see if that's correct. That is correct. Okay, so which one is listening to our breathing?
C.
C.
So everybody says C. Okay, so there you go. So everybody is everybody breathing right now? Okay, good. All right, and then number 5 would be
E.
E. Now, before we leave this topic, I want to show you here on the picture, because I know in Spanish, and maybe this is the same in your language, I'm going to circle here, if you can see it on the screen. Do you see those letters RX on the prescription there? Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now one reason, of course, is because the letters RX are, as you can guess, not English. So if you think about it, I'm curious, how would you say this in your language?
Rayos X.
Well, not the letters.
In Spanish,
Yeah. Well, for example, in
In
English, in English we would call it a prescription.
mhm.
But what would you call it in your language?
In Spanish is receta.
Aha.
Yeah.
So,
In Brazil, it's like
Yes.
recipe.
yes. I'm guessing it's probably similar in Russian too.
Recipe. Yes.
Yeah.
Like a recipe.
Yeah. So guys, guess what? The RX that you see on the particular pad is actually not English. It came into English from Latin, which is why many of our Spanish and Portuguese students use this word. But of course, this is one of those words that students get confused. So for example, students often get it confused with these words, receipt, or they also get it confused with recipe.
Mhm.
So just remember, these two words are not used in English to refer to medicine. So receipt is what you would get at the store, right? You buy something, they give you a list of everything you bought.
Yes.
Recipe, who can tell us what a recipe is?
It's like recipe of a food.
Yeah, so
For
cooking.
food.
Yeah, so in this case, you
For
wouldn't.
cooking.
Yeah, so you wouldn't go to the doctor and say, doctor, could you give me a recipe, please? And, the doctor might say, what, I don't know, for pizza, for chicken noodle soup?
For a cake.
Yeah, for cake, perhaps. Yeah. Well, just be careful, guys, because and what's funny, Sergey, especially funny. One of my very first students was from Russia many years ago, and the student had trouble communicating with the doctor, and he kept saying recipe, and I said, what? Are you hungry? What do you want? And that's when I learned that this word was pretty much the same like in Spanish. So just remember, guys, in English, we use the word prescription. Prescription is what we use for medicine. So receipt and recipe are different words, but it's still confusing. In fact, here's a little test for everybody. If you have any American friends or neighbors, ask them what RX means. They probably can't tell you. So they'll probably just say it's prescription, But the truth is, guys, it comes from a different language. Okay, so far we're off to a great start. Now, the idea here is just to kind of review a little bit. So getting a physical, going to the doctor, these are the particular things that we should do for good health. So I think everybody here probably knows this. Now, we're not going to do the watch activities. It's too hard to do through Zoom. But the watch activity is very similar to the activity that you can do in the Burlington English program. So I hope you did have a chance to do this activity. But if not, I would recommend that you review the video before next week. Okay, so keep that in mind. Because I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to explain what we're going to be doing next week here in just a moment. Okay, now let's leave the physical topic for just a moment, and let's go back to the grammar idea that we discussed last week, and that was using ED and ING words. And this will be a chance for us to do a little practice here. But again, if you remember last week, we said that in word families, we often use ED and ING words to describe something, not as an action, but actually to describe, for example, how we feel, or to describe what something is. So again, if you notice on the screen, we have some examples here. We use the ED adjective to describe your feelings. So for example, I am confused, or she is annoyed. We use the ING to describe something that causes you to feel this way. So again, if you say, for example, I am confusing, well, that means you make other people feel confused.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, are you a confusing person? Well, hopefully not. But in this case, if you say, for example, the recipe is confusing, that means it makes you feel confused, right? So last week, for example, I tried to make a pizza following a recipe, like actually making, the pizza dough. I threw it up in the air, right? It fell on my face. No, I'm just kidding. But the idea is, it was a very confusing recipe. Both my wife and me, we had a lot of trouble following the recipe. The recipe, it was very confusing. Or her little brother is annoying. So in this case, you feel annoyed because of your little brother. So the idea we learned last week is we use the ED and ING for different things. Okay. So let's try a couple of examples, and then we'll try a little, kind of activity together. Okay. So for example, let's look at this activity real quickly. So again, I have two activities. One, it says we're going to find 3 adjectives with the ED ending, and we're going to find 3 adjectives with the ING. Now, what I'd like for everybody to do first is let's read these pictures, okay? So for example, Asami, can you see there picture A? Can you read picture A there for us?
Jake is worried. His cholesterol is high.
So there's Jake is worried, okay? All right, let's look at B there. Okay, so Paolo, would you read that one for us?
They are watching an interesting TV show.
Okay, good. All right, let's continue. Rena, how about picture C there? Look at that picture there. That looks like me. So Rena, can you read that next part there for us?
It's frustrating when you try to fix something, but you can't.
Yeah, that's me. That feels like me right there. Okay, okay, Anna, how about D there?
Wait, Mr. John. I can't see the picture. Okay.
See it there?
D.
Mhm.
This hike is really exhausting.
Exhausting. Yes, hiking. So hiking is exhausting, right? Okay. Let's see, Maria. How about letter E there? There you go on the beach. So let's see, Maria. Can you see that?
Okay. Kenny is on vacation. She feels relaxed.
Okay, so yeah, maybe that's you, right, on the beach. All right, and then how about the last one there? Let's see, Shiho, how about the last one, letter F there?
Yes, Angela is very tired. She had a hard day.
Okay, so once again, we see lots of those ING and ED words. So what were some of the ED words we see in the text here?
Worried.
So I see worried. Okay.
Tired.
Relaxed.
Relaxed.
And
Tired.
Tired.
Okay. And then some ING words. Which ING words do we see?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Frustrating.
Frustrating.
Frustrating, yeah. So maybe again, maybe you feel, I feel like letter C. It's frustrating when I try to fix something. Yeah, that looks like me. Okay, so again, I think we're pretty good on understanding those ideas. Okay. All right, now here's a little activity that we can do right now. So I'm going to put these on the screen. I will zoom out just a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. Okay. Now, what I would like for you to do right now, so guys, we're going to turn off the microphones for just a moment. So I'm going to turn off all the microphones, and I'd like for you to use the chat box, okay? So I'm going to turn on the chat box. Now, to make this easy for us, what I'm going to do is in the chat box, I'm going to put the number, and you tell me if it's going to be the ing word or the ed. So, for example, in number 1, it says here, Julia did yoga this morning. She feels very relaxing or relaxed. So for example, in the chat box, when I put the number 1, which one would you choose? Now everybody, no mics, just use the chat box. Would you choose the ing word or the ed word? Okay, so right now in the chat box. Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, so once again, I'm going to turn to the next page. Okay, so hopefully it'll appear there on your screen. Okay, so I'm going to put the number in the chat box. Yeah, now in this case, again, we would use ED because we're talking about how he feels, okay? Now, it's possible, of course, that he could be an exciting kid, but if you notice in this case, he's talking about how he feels about riding the horse. So in this case, excited would be the answer. Yeah, so in this case, it is his feeling. So Hassan was frightened. So in this case, yes, frightened would be the answer here. So now maybe the situation is frightening, but no, this is how he feels. He feels frightened. And by the way, in the chat box, can somebody tell me what does frightened mean? Don't use the microphone, use the chat box. Can somebody tell me what does frightened mean? Can somebody give me another word? All right, congratulations, Rena. Scared. Okay, so we're going to do this last activity here together, and then we're going to do just a little speaking activity just to kind of finish. But once again, we're looking at these this little paragraph, okay? Now, what I'm going to do here in this case is let's read through the sentence. I'm going to read through the information. Now, as I am reading, the first person who can jump in with the microphone to tell me the answer. So, for example, I'm going to start with the first one. Maria is. Now the word is concern. So would you say concerned or concerning? Okay, congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, I'm going to continue. About her health. Her cholesterol is high and she has gained weight. Mariana has been on a diet for 2 weeks, but she hasn't lost any weight. She is very
Frustrated.
Wow, Maria, I think you got it there. Okay, but a lot of people joined in. A friend told her to exercise, but she doesn't like exercising. She thinks it's
Boring.
Congratulations, very fast. You guys are fast. And it makes her
Tired.
Tired.
I think I heard Danielle on that one. Yeah, tired. But she also knows it's important for her health. So she's going to join a gym. Maybe she'll try an exercise class. She hopes it will be more
Interesting.
All right. I think Maria got that one there. All right. Excellent. So once again, it looks like we're catching on to the idea of feelings and the ing form. Okay. All right. Now, here's what I would like to do here at the last part of our class. So the idea is to kind of share with how we feel about these situations. Now, real quickly, I'm going to read these on the screen, and we're going to try something here with the last few minutes of class. It's called a breakout room. Now, I don't know if we've done the breakout room before, but basically the breakout room is where I put you together with a partner or 2 other people, and you kind of join a separate room to talk. And it's just going to be a short activity. And the idea is you're going to finish these sentences with your neighbor. Now, we do have a problem. And part of the problem is we can't really see the screen when we're in the breakout room. So what I'm going to do is just kind of share these sentences. I can make a little message to send to you in the room. So we're going to just choose a few of these, but I want you and your friend to kind of talk a little bit about them. But first, let me read each one real quickly. I get annoyed when, it's frightening when, I get tired when, I get excited when, it's frustrating when, and then finally, I'm always surprised when. Okay, now in just a moment, I'm going to put you together in a room, and you will leave this room and you will join another room. So the idea is, when I assign you to these rooms, I'm going to share with you the beginning of the sentence. You'll see it, it's kind of small. It'll appear at the bottom of your phone or at your computer screen. So we're just going to take about 5 minutes to do this activity. So I'm going to share some of these sentences, and I just want you and your neighbor to finish the sentence. Talk about it with each other. So for example, if you notice the picture here, I think this is the mom looking at her daughters. Maybe this is like you guys. I get annoyed when my children don't listen to me. So maybe moms, you feel the same way. Well, I'm going to create these breakout rooms. So I'm going to check the groups right now. Okay. All right. Looks good. All right. So guys, you're going to leave this room and join another room. And when you join the room, I'll share some sentences for you to talk about. Okay. So here we go. Get ready. So make sure to join the room. Well, our time is up for today. I hope you were able to practice with your neighbor in our activity. So let's go ahead quickly and talk about what's next. Okay, so for next week, we're going to do a speaking activity. So I'll talk more about that here in just a moment. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share this in your email. But what I'd like for you to do is to go back and review the vocabulary from lessons 5 and 6. So from the physical and from the ED and ING. So again, I have the instructions here. So again, in Burlington English, you're going to go to the courses. You'll go to the low intermediate level, but this time you will click on vocabulary practice. And so my advice is to try to review the vocabulary words because we're going to do an activity with these words next week. Okay? So again, I will put this in the email so that you guys can go back and practice with these vocabulary words before next week. So let me explain what we're going to do next week. Now, some of you might remember last session in the spring, I did some individual speaking activities. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be scheduling some individual times when you can practice a speaking activity with me. Okay, so right after this meeting is finished, I'm going to send you a list of available times for next week that you can join me in this activity. Now, it's going to be about 15 or 20 minutes, and it's just you and me practicing in the activity. So this is a good chance for you to do a little more speaking and practice with me next week. So guys, when I send you this schedule, please, please, please respond by Wednesday if you want to participate. Now, we're still going to have our chat next week, so we'll still have our class, but this is an extra activity that I would like for you to join me with in this for next week, okay? All right, so our next chat will be next Tuesday, June 16th, from 10 to 11, but again, I'm going to send you that schedule, so please, please, choose the times that you're available. So it's going to be times for next Monday, next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So there'll be times all available during the week if you want to do the activity with me. Okay?